Welcome to the Repel, where extraordinary women executives get real about their career journeys. This season, thanks to our partnership with GNW Consulting, you'll hear even more stories from women leaders about how they're building visibility for themselves, their careers, and their companies. I'm your host, Ashley Lobbs, and today we're joined by someone very special. Leslie Greenwood is one of our executive producers, but you probably know her as the co-founder of Wednesday Women, the women's executive network behind this podcast. She's joining us to share her own visibility journey and how it turned into a mission to amplify others. Leslie, I'm so glad that you're with us today. I think this is long overdue. We're well into season 2, and we haven't heard from our co-founders. I mean, how is that possible?
Who are the executive producers, by the way?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's weird.
It is weird. We're going to make it unweird right now. And I think this is the perfect time because we've been talking to so many women, authors, executives, founders, and truly amazing people about their journeys with visibility and putting themselves in the spotlight. And here you are, the person who brought all of them together in this amazing community alongside Melissa. And I want to hear a bit about your journey. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm so glad. And I want to just start by going all the way back to the moment in your career when you felt like, hey, maybe it's important to start promoting myself to be seen and not just let my work speak for itself.
It was actually a very specific conversation that I was having. I was at an event, and I know one of the person was standing there, and there was one other person, and I'm going to blank on her name, so I'm just going to leave it out. We were standing there, and, I was the VP of Member Success at a large community, so I had visibility. My pictures were on emails. I led calls, things like that.
People knew who you were, yeah.
Yeah, but everything I posted on my personal LinkedIn was about the company. It wasn't just reposts, but it was about, oh, hey, new members, or hey, that. But it was always attached to the business that I was not the owner of, by the way. That's why I have a very specific feeling about that going forward. And they said to me, Leslie, I think it's time that you start building your own brand and not promoting someone else's. It's time for you to establish yourself.
And how did you feel about that at the time?
I think I felt I knew what was coming. And so I, was like, okay, that's very sage advice. And I had my voice. So my voice was still there. It wasn't the brand's voice. It was my voice. But it was just stop attaching everything I did to the brand and just kind of like branch off on my own and still talk about the stuff that I wanted to talk about. And even now, I don't attach everything to the brand. I'm still Leslie. I happen to be Leslie, the co-founder of Wednesday Women, who is also a community expert. But it's like, I don't want to talk about business all the time. Honestly, I think it's boring when people do that, by the way.
Yeah, well, I don't think that your connections are as deep when all you connect about is business. I think my deepest connections are with people. We've had some deep life talks in the middle of all of that.
Exactly. So yeah, no, that was a very distinct moment when someone specifically told me, you need to dissect, build your own voice and your own brand.
So in the beginning, you were out there, you were putting yourself out there, you were creating content, you were talking to so many people, but it was kind of hiding behind the logo. What did it mean for you to step out? What did that visibility look like for you?
It came with a lot of things. I mean, it came with also stepping out in my own business. I think it was, although I had a lot of freedom, but it was freeing, that I didn't have to do certain things. And no one was making me do that, but it's like I could really just focus on what I wanted to focus on. And so, yeah, that's definitely how it felt. And then it was like a world of possibilities of like, oh, what am I talking about today? And this was before before AI became mainstream.
Yeah, I think that is such a strength. Taking the time to sit down with your ideas and figure out what they are. I mean, struggling with your ideas is a really huge part of the creative process. And if you don't do it, I think you're going to have a much harder time anchoring into any kind of mission or meaning that actually makes that work good.
And I still to this day do not have a LinkedIn strategy. There are days that I struggle to come up with something. I meander around a little bit, and I think I could be more targeted in the way I talk, but I think maybe it really is my voice, tone, and I hate to say the word authenticity because it's been kind of bastardized. Everybody's authentic, even if they use AI to generate all their posts. AI help them be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people feel that, and I think that is what centers my
Yeah.
visibility is around that, despite what topics I might talk about.
So what do you think authenticity actually means?
I think it's being your whole self. It's being the messy parts of yourself. It's
Mhm.
being the I'm struggling parts of yourself. It's the, ADHD part of myself. It's the I jumped out of a plane part of myself. It is all of the things. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm just a Midwesterner and that's just how we do it. I don't know how to do it any other way. And I think that has also been, while it's a strength in attracting the right people to me, also has been an Achilles heel because the way I am is just the way I am. And that doesn't always work in a business setting.
I think that there are people who are really good at being very diplomatic, and when something's going on with them or when they think something, they've got this kind of polished veneer. They never seem to get upset. They move through it, whatever. You would never know. And that is not me.
No, me neither. I don't know how to do that.
No, absolutely. And there's this way that if something's going on in my life, if something big is happening, good or bad, like you're about to know my business. And I think you're right. Like that does endear people to you. And some people, so like, wow, that's really not my thing. And I think that's part of authenticity too, is knowing that you're not for everybody. And if you're trying to be for everybody, you're probably not being authentic.
That is true. That is true. And being my age, 55 from the Midwest, I was born to be a pleaser. I really thought that if people didn't like me, it was on me. I needed to fix that. And it was actually a podcast that I had for a while, but I didn't stay with it. It was not, all the details are not for me. And if you could see my board, you would see the quote about unapologetic self-expression. And then also the other thing, this was Ravi Rajani who talked about that. He also said, you are built to attract and repel. So when you are yourself, you will attract the people that you're meant to attract. And you actually are actively repelling those that you are not meant to be with. And that was such a freeing thing for me because I thought that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't connect with them, or
Yeah.
they like me, or whatever the feeling was, when really it's just the natural mechanism of humans. And it's perfectly perfect that that is the case. And allowing myself to be okay with that is like, oh, no, we're just not meant to be friends. Like, you're not meant to be in my orbit. And that's cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I relate to that so much. I feel like that's a lesson that's really clicked for me recently, like in the last year. Because, you hear these things all the time. And you're like, yeah, totally makes sense. I get it. And then you still do it anyway. You still please and you still blame yourself and whatever. And then that moment comes where it's really to your detriment that you have spent so much energy and time. Usually you have your generosity taken advantage of one too many times or just by the wrong person. That's what happened to me. And it was like something click or maybe something broke. And suddenly I was just like, wow, I'm never doing this again. And if people are going to go, they're going to go. And I'm going to let them. Bye. Yeah.
Well, if you think of the mental bandwidth that it's taking, because like your brain is always running, the amount of energy thinking, what could I have done differently? What would I have done? How could I have changed my interactions so they would have liked me or whatever? And it's like, like that is so much literal energy that your body is taking to process all of those thoughts, but that's
Yeah.
also a little anxiety wrapped up in
Yeah.
that. Is there
Oh,
some
absolutely.
rumination, like literal rumination going on and rethinking and thinking and thinking, but it's like not worth it.
Well, I think that is something so many people struggle with when they're putting themselves out there, whether that's on LinkedIn or trying to become a speaker or even just becoming more visible inside their company to have more influence there. I think that people worry so much about what happens when someone doesn't like it, right? Because the difference is when we're doing this and you're just in person, you're having a single relationship at a time. If someone doesn't like something, maybe you'll kind of feel it in the moment and then you just won't see them as much. But when you're on LinkedIn or something like that, people really feel comfortable just telling you that they don't like it sometimes. And it's a dynamic that's not natural. And you're dealing with maybe someone not liking you at scale, which is kind of jarring for people to think about. What was that like for you as you stepped into your personal voice more? Was that something you had to confront at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things that's kind of funny. It's like, you made it once you get trolled. Been trolled, then you're great. You're like right on path to like more visibility. So, I mean, I think that's just like a rite of passage. Just like if you're a founder, once you start sending people texts asking them to buy you gift cards, it's like, oh, my company's made it. Like the people are getting phishing texts from me. It's like it's the rite of passage.
Yeah.
I took a fairly strong stance in the last couple of years on some issues, and I was vocal about that. And, I got some messages. It's like, I am unfollowing you. And that's great. I mean, I got about 100 unfollows that one day and then picked up 200 the next day. And so it's not that deep. Of course, I have many relationships on LinkedIn that are real, full relationships. And those people would come to me and talk to me and things like that. And if I've done something or offended someone, like, I want them to tell me. Like, I want to have that approachableness and ask for feedback from people. But, if you were a LinkedIn random person following me and you decide you don't like me anymore, like, it doesn't make a meaningful impact in my life. And so I have to let that go. And, and I think for me, there's a saying that I use, and we had it when the kids were little. We had a poster board of all the rules of what you had to do. It's like no hitting, da, 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 da. It's like, and at the top it said, "We are Greenwoods and we are kind." Like that was our saying in our family. And it's like, because my kids are very much like me. If it comes to their mind, it would come out of their mouth. I'm like, okay, there are things you think and things you say. And so sometimes you don't need to say everything you think, but it's like, you may not like someone, but you still have to be kind to them. At the end of the day, if I know that I made my decisions, or I posted, or I spoke, or I interacted with someone and I did it with a kind heart, even if it's not something they wanted to hear, if it was maybe constructive feedback or something, I can still sleep easy. Like that is my internal monitor, is if I've done it that way and come from that place, then, that's a choice that I made, and I know it was coming from a good place, even if sometimes maybe it didn't come out quite right or it wasn't liked by the audience, but it was authentic to me.
On the Ripple, we are constantly in conversation with leaders who tell it like it is. No Instagram perfect filters. So let's be honest. When you start a new role, you've likely opened a set of reports and dashboards and immediately thought, what even is this? If that's you, or if it's ever been you, you are not alone. GNW Consulting helps marketing leaders get clarity fast. They'll audit your systems, make sense of your MarTech stack, and give you a clear path forward. No tech decoder ring required. Whether you're new to the team or just ready for a reset, GNW can help you lead with confidence from day one. Plus, they're a huge supporter of Wednesday Women and our goal to amplify women and support women executives. So visit gnwconsulting.com to see how they're helping leaders like you get to market faster with less friction. I think it's interesting. I've heard people talk about, hey, you've made it when you get trolled or when you have haters or, when people make those negative comments. And I think there's really, I've seen people take that in different ways where it's like, hey, that's just part of all of this. And when you start speaking up and being true to yourself, you're going to have that kind of realignment. And that's the painful part of the realignment, is you're going to attract all these people, but you're going to break some ties also. And remembering that that's for the best, and that's, the healthy version of that idea. And I've also seen people who kind of take it the wrong way, where they're like, I'm going to make some haters this year. I'm going to be so controversial, right? And it's like being controversial is my way of, getting attention and breaking things and moving fast. And it's like a tactic. you know?
It's so obvious when that happens. It is so obvious, and it is incredibly like cringy
Yeah. It's
when people do that.
painful.
It is painful to watch, and there's usually when that happens, it's not a single strong stance about something that they feel, like feel passionately about. It's whether ABM is dead or
Yeah.
SDRs are like SDRs are no longer whatever, and they'll just pipe up, to pipe up, and they'll do it multiple times, and I'm just like, oh, another one of those. Pass on by.
Yeah. Yeah. There are no heartstrings being pulled. It's just acronyms.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's just like let's just be, rude or talk in absolutes to talk in absolutes because you know that it's going to get engagement. But what's the point of I mean, what's the point of that engagement?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like you can have the attention for the 30 seconds that someone is looking at your post, maybe not even. They read that hook, they click see more, and then they realize there's no actual substance beyond this, and you've basically tricked them into clicking something. And nobody has time for that. Nobody has the energy for that. You're really taking trust away when you do that. So it's like you get attention for a few seconds, and the cost is trust, which is really not a good equation in my book. That math is not very good. But I think when you do it well, when it's something that comes from the heart, people really react to it well. And I'm curious, over the time that you've been posting on LinkedIn and showing up in the digital and the virtual world, because you're always traveling and going to events, can you recall a specific time when building your visibility really paid off for you, that it changed the trajectory of your career?
I mean, there's two things. One is, when I went out on my own for consulting, all of my business came from my network. I didn't do cold outbound, I didn't do that. It was people that already knew, liked and trusted me that would, tag me in a post or send me a DM or do something like that. And that's through community and then through, LinkedIn and visibility. And I think you can think about visibility also within a community.
Yeah.
Because that will transfer out. But 100%, like I would not have been able to build my business had I not built the network that I had. I will say that also transfers to Wednesday Women because like who's going to trust when I random DM someone like, hey, I want to feature you. And they're like, what? How much does this cost?
Yeah.
All this stuff. And if they have some knowledge of me or Melissa as humans, that objection doesn't come.
Yeah. That's not how you guys work.
That's just not how we work. And people know that because of the personal brands and because we built like strong, I guess, trustworthy, authentic personal brands that gets transferred to the business. And the business is better off for it. But also that was the moment. Like when I first started getting referrals and was able to build a business that lasted for 3 years until I, pretty much sunsetted just so I could do Wednesday Women full time. And it was built from that. And without that, no business.
I think that's the story for a lot of people. And the strength of their network will vary, but it's often the same story. And then they realize that their network is really what's holding them up and then try to build it one way or another. So I think that makes complete sense. And I'm really curious, how did Melissa come into your network? How did she come into your orbit?
We were connected randomly. I actually knew more of her brother and I knew their company. And as I was doing, I'd made this post about who are the women CEOs I should know. And then I would see other posts and then those people would all get on my spreadsheet. And I would just drop my spreadsheet around as I saw more people asking the question. And she asked the question, who are the women founders I should know?
Yeah.
And so I dropped my spreadsheet in her feed. That is exactly how we met.
Well, that's how I met you.
Well, yeah. And then somehow we ended up on a phone call. And I mean, honestly, I feel like it was like one phone call. We were like off to the races, but we were both just executors and we got along really well to begin with. And then, deepened that and made it officially founderish, co-founderish together. But yeah, no, she was literally also a LinkedIn random connection that I just, dropped my information into her feed that turned into a call that turned into, a really amazing business that I feel blessed every day to get up and do. And honestly, a really good friend as well. Like I would consider her one of my closest friends on top of, the business and what we're building here.
Isn't that amazing when that happens? I think people really undervalue the people you can meet on LinkedIn.
I have other friends that I've met through community, and they are two of my very, very best friends. I would call them if I were on the side of the road at 3 a.m. And we met during the pandemic, so I did not meet them in person for multiple years. And now, we try to get together at least once a quarter to have brunch or dinner or co-work or something, and we continue those relationships. And I've seen children been born, and now they're like 5, and it's just they've seen me move to be an empty nester, and it's just really amazing to see what you can do. And I think that's when they think about the word networking, and you don't really take it into the personal benefits that you
Mm-hmm.
also can get from these things. I mean, minus sometimes just a really good phone call. I had one yesterday, and I'm like, literally, we are like LinkedIn randos
Yeah.
to each other, but we just had the best call. And it was, I left the call feeling great. And we may never talk again, who knows? But it was, you just have to open yourself up and to be that vulnerable. Take that call, take that introduction, see where it takes you. Put limits on yourself so that you are not over, like, I could network forever and not do any work,
Yeah.
but put some limits on yourself, and then just, you never know where the spider web will take you. For me, it's a very interesting, like, psychological experiment.
And so much of that comes from shifting your mindset about networking. Because I think some people see networking as that transactional moment when you're looking for a client, you're looking for a job, you're looking for some kind of connection and transaction, and you're meeting a bunch of people until you find those people, right? And sometimes if you meet someone cool but they're not one of those people, they're still just kind of transitory.
Mm.
They don't stay on your radar. And I think the next evolution of that is people who are trying to build an audience, right? And then they're just kind of trying to farm attention. And it's like,
Mm.
well, no, everyone's important, but it's still in service of me and building me up in some way.
Mm.
And I think eventually, or if you're lucky and paying attention, you realize that all of this is a community and that we're all just people, and our connections are valuable in and of themselves just because we need it, and we're human, and we don't stop being human just because we're working.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You'll see me talk all the time. I'm like, here's some community-ing tips. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like that reframe in people's mind. They get nervous about networking. They don't know what to say. They feel uncomfortable. It's like, no, we're communitying. We're just people, and we're going to have conversations, or we're going to see where they lead. And, and that's unfortunately some of the things, like when you said, people network when they need something.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, at that point, it's too late,
it's too late.
because you will not be able to make the quality connections, because you have that pressure that you need to find the job, you need to find the next paying gig, etc. And you don't have the luxury to just have a conversation with someone and not have an expectation of an outcome.
You're totally right. And it's such a common story and a really hard one, especially now when we are seeing a lot of layoffs and kind of uncertainty. If you haven't built your network already, now is the time. Start connecting with people because you don't want to wait until you need something.
Yes. And the other thing is, for people at larger companies, they need to network internally, and they provide them with the tools and the strategies and the groups to do that. But those are the same companies that are laying people off in mass.
Yeah.
And that network will oftentimes not come with you for
Mm-hmm.
a variety of reasons. One of them also may be fear, because they're next, may not be personal. But that's why it's like diversifying your portfolio of networking. It's both, in community, at your role on LinkedIn, because you need all of it to create, like I said, like a really good web to catch you when
Yeah.
you need. And it's really sad to see people come out of a really big company and they've done all this networking, and it's really for naught.
At least for now. I mean, sometimes those things come back around later, but I totally agree with you that usually right after something like a layoff happens, you're disconnected from that network a bit. You're not going to end up right back in the same place. You have to be able to look elsewhere. And I think that is such a great segue into the Wednesday Women community because it is a great place for, I mean, you guys kind of manufacture these introductions every week to amazing people. I know I've reached out to people just because they were featured, like, hey, you seem interesting, and just formed connections with folks who are really great. And I'm curious what it was that made you decide, hey, my passion is really creating this visibility for other women.
I don't know if I definitely didn't decide that at the beginning. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, hey, I'm just doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm making this spreadsheet. And then it was like me and Melissa, she made the carousel and I would try to post on time on Wednesday. And, it was just, we knew it was something we were passionate about, but it didn't have the, I don't know, the that it has now. But that's also because like you hear the stories. You connect me with so and so. I was on your podcast. I spoke on your webinar and I got my first paying speaking role. Or I was on my first podcast ever because you introduced me to someone. And those little wins, like I definitely, those are the things that like pay me. Those are the things that like are the extra bonus pay. And that's, I think people that really love community understand
Mm-hmm.
that that's the payment you get. If you volunteer in a community, you're not going to get paid. Even if you get paid, you're not even going to get really paid for your time, effort, and expertise. But you have to have something internal that like is like, I,
Yeah.
I had a hand in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me, I love that feeling. I love the feeling of being able to help someone provide that visibility or opportunity, and it gives me so much personal joy. And I've said so many times that I could just find a way that like there was a coin operated machine of that, like that I could get paid just to make quality introductions.
Yeah.
Like I really was searching for that job because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be a recruiter, but I will help people find jobs all the time.
Something that I love about you in particular is that Wednesday Women feels like such like a passion project, like a heartfelt project, but it also to me, I can't quite put my finger on it, but it feels a little bit like rooting for a sports team. And I think maybe it's because of the swag. I don't know. Like you've got your Wednesday Women nails. You're repping the Wednesday Women colors all the time. You're such a cheerleader for this community, and not just because you created it, but because you believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something really great about that. Like the even just like having such a visual identity in the swag and you guys truly loving it and representing it. It's not just some kind of gimmick. I think that because I've got a Wednesday Women hoodie and whenever I wear it, I feel like I'm cheering for the team,
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it just feels like a little way that it's so clear you guys are excited about this community and I feel like I belong to it when I'm repping my colors.
Yay. Well, that's what was the thing. We really, how do you make people feel like they belong? We had a talk for the longest time called How to Build Community Without Building a Community because we were never going to build a community.
Mhm.
And it's like, how do you make people feel included, feel part of the team, so to speak, even if there isn't a team? And, we were able to do that from the beginning. And maybe that is, maybe part of that is like cheering for the team. I don't know exactly. But honestly, to be like, just like, so people understand, like, I'm not just wearing purple and have purple. Well, these are my conference nails. These are extra. I was in Las Vegas. Look how
I
extra these are.
mean, those are some Vegas nails, yeah.
Those are some Vegas nails. But purple's my favorite color. Like when I was a kid, I was going to have a pink and purple striped house with pink polka dots on the purple and purple polka dots on the pink. That was me, my house.
And where are we on that?
We're not anywhere close on that. That dream.
Maybe one day, Leslie.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But that, I mean, literally, I remember where we were living. I couldn't have been more than first or second grade. And that is the house that I wanted desperately.
Well, it's kind of close to the virtual house that you're building with Wednesday Women.
Except for no pink. We just went aqua instead.
Yeah. Well, as we end our time here, I would love to get a piece of advice from you for all of those women who are maybe just now activating their networks and growing their communities and figuring out how to put themselves in the spotlight. What would you say to them?
I would say, it's going to sound so cheesy, but do it from your heart. Give away all your knowledge for free in the right settings because people still want you to execute it. So be known for something, and generosity is a great thing to be known for. Kindness is a great thing to be known for. Amplifying other people is a great thing to be known for. And really just double down on that. And don't be afraid to hit the button. Just hit the darn button. Post the freaking post. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It is never going to be perfect. The post, I think, I'm like, oh, this is the best post ever. is going to be great. I'm saying great things. I've got a good hook, 300 impressions.
Yeah.
Well, like, don't worry about it. Like, just hit the button and hit it once a week and just do it.
Just do it.
Yep.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us, Leslie. I'm really excited to talk to you again soon with Melissa about the journey of this community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now that we're at the end of today's episode, take a moment to reflect on how Leslie's story might inspire your own. What would it look like to align your network with your values? And how can you treat your network more like a community? If today's show inspired you to think of an extraordinary woman leader in your life, let her know about the Wednesday Women Executive Membership. It's a safe space for women leaders to tackle any challenge, ask questions, and uplift others. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your ratings help us grow and inspire even more people. Thank you to our Season 2 sponsor, GNW Consulting, to our executive producers, Melissa Moody and Leslie Greenwood, and to our technical producer, Yelena Georgievich, with Kind Media Productions. I'm your host, Ashley Lobbs, hoping the small ripple creates a big wave in your life. Until next time.